Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Melee, okay. Then I have to just do... Okay, that works. To be honest, I'm really tired of Strawdro. No, I want to do that solo. Oh well. I'm not gonna be able to get a single thing done. Oh.
Supply cash flipped into self-destruct. It works, fewer fervent charges to pocket. Know this. Open that thing and the tech probably get riled up. Crazy. Tech was well made. Situations like proper mate.
I'm one-shotting them with my sword. Not one-shotting exactly, but... very weird.
Line 'em up, cut 'em down.
Okay, now we're getting to a bit weird one. Okay, you know what? I want it to be sword only. I did. But this thing is ridiculous. Gimme, 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 gimme. You know, this only happens. I hate Totten damage. I don't know what's worse. Totten damage? No, actually, yeah, that might be the worst thing. Can't think of much worse than Totten damage. There is an ad break coming in 3 minutes for those, if anyone is here, to even care. For that to even be a thing for them to care about. I doubt it. I'm just here because I'm doing my dailies anyway. Oh, I got electrocuted again.
Nobody gonna mess with the hex now. Not Skuldra, not Tekra. You feel me? Now extract yourself.
Okay, one down. However many you go. Okay, what relic did I get? B15. I don't need that. Well, that's kind of a weird one. Guess it could have uses. I guess. Let me just solo. What's a good melee focus frame? Melee focus frame. Oh, I know. Varuna. I don't really have a good Varuna build though. That's kind of a problem. My Ruina build isn't exactly good. But it's a build, that's for sure. I guess. This is a Varuna build. It does Varuna things. Not navigation. Okay. I'm not going there. What do I hate less? Tekrod or Stradra? Stradra. I hate both, playing against both, but you know. Stradra just Draneer with extra steps. Tekrod are just precursors of what's it called? The Infested. Boom, bing, bang.
I'm talking total wipeout.
I hate knockback so much. Might be the worst thing added to a game. And the best perk for it, you can't even like... You have to literally wait like a login period to get or trade for it. And no one's gonna trade that because it's such a hard thing to get. And you can only get it once, so like... You're not gonna be trading your perks away if you only get it once. I'm glad I don't have to kill specific ones, I just melee and get all the melee kills out of the way.
Just pinged one of Scald's secret stashes. Use the Fervon charges to mount the locks and get inside. But I gotta tell you, they will not be happy about it if you do.
I just need to know where it is. Simple as that.
Cauldra on high alert! Your window of opportunity to get into the cache is closing. Find the Fervon charges.
I found the cash pile. Now to find the cash box. Now to find the upper charge. Oh, that's the wrong way. Charges are around here somewhere. Wrong weapon. Well, there's one. There's one over here.
Victor!
Oh, I only needed 2. Okay, well, time to go destroy them.
The extremely pissed off bad guys.
Oh, invisibility is so powerful. Ow.
It's the hex again. Really? Oh. I want you to ask yourself, could this have been a paratrooper thing? Could Stormfall deal with them? Yeah? Okay. Stormfall. You're going up against the most dangerous breed of technite. The Hex. Best of luck to you. Good hunting.
Our numbers are dwindling. We can't stop now. Any survivors will be transferred to a new squad.
Holy moly. Okay. 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 You know, doing this solo reminds me of a couple things in this game. How insane enemy density is sometimes. And how insane Scarlet is to fight sometimes. Because they just are non-stop toxic. No, I could run Saren and fix all of my issues. But I argue if I have to run one frame to fix all the issues with the mission type, that makes the mission type a little weird. At least in my book. Like, if the only way to fix a mission type is to run one specific frame, or a couple specific frames, that makes the mission type a little weird in my book. That's just my opinion. Okay, I'm gonna have to retreat a little bit and let my drone recover and also recover some energy because this is a very energy intensive character. Okay. Okay. Finally, I'm getting some damage, actual damage out because of the combos. This entire build relies on combos, by the way. If you haven't noticed by how little damage I do before I hit like 3x. Okay, okay, okay. Well, that was a weird animation. Don't try it. What did I say? What did I just say? You tried it. Now where did that get you? Apparently me glitched. Oh, seeing actual damage numbers out of my sword is great. But man, does it take a little bit to get there sometimes. Eight X, huh? There's damage. Takes a little bit to get here. 10x, huh? Oh, great, it's about to go away. And there we go. And there goes all my damage. Oh, these characters are easy to build up a combo on. Bing. 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 And combo gone. Combos do not last long on this build. Oh. So these do count. This does count as melee because, well, it is literally claws. That tracking's ridiculous still. Oh, I love the tracking on that. Just gonna stand here for a minute. $120 out of 150, huh? Toxin damage, I need to get away a little bit. Hello there. Cannot see whose name is that exactly right now. I don't know who it is. I can't see right now. Oh, it's Wiki. Hello.
That's the last of them. Time to come home.
Okay. That was close. $140 out of 150. I could probably get it right here, actually, in this mission. If I actually try to. Do I want to wait and try and get the 150 done? I'm gonna do it. Because I'm already here. I just have to find 10 enemies. It shouldn't be hard, but you know. Where is this enemy at? I don't know where they are. Oh. Okay, they glitched. That's 93. I'm gonna have to do another mission. Wonderful. Okay. Have fun. Any more lockers around here? Any? No? Okay. No more lockers. Where's Arcane Station? That's not Arcane's. Right here. Okay, this is Arcane's. Right. Right. Anything else needs to be upgraded? That one need to be upgraded? Nope, I just need one more arcane for that. Need one more arcane for that. Haven't gotten any of these really. Few more for that. That's pretty good if you can get it matched out. So is that 2 more? Two more for this. Need one more to level that up, which will get it up to 40%, which is pretty good. But I am missing so many arcanes. I only have like 35 arcanes of any of the ones needed. Like specifically, like you want to do like melee stuff. I have like nothing. I do have one of the best melee ones though. This is pretty good for my build. How much of this done am I? 140 out of 115. I'll get actually nothing right here, but I will get a chance between Archon Shard or Arcanes. I don't know which I'll get. Good melee frames. I have not used Yarly at all. Like, I have Yarly. I don't have her upgraded at all, though. I just have her. Windows 7 off. You know, I actually have an upgrade in him. Got it. Where's my intensity? And I can just put you there. Oh, I can't put you there. Well, 30% is better than nothing, right?
you might be wondering if I'm holding back on y'all. Dreamers. Let's check what's next.
Please select destination.
I wish more people were here. I have bounty to do. Yes, it's an extermination. Nothing like anything stupid like a capture and assassination. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind those, but they just take so long.
Yo, tech clock signals down to 50%. Take it to the field.
Okay, and I am now allowed to use guns. And of course abilities. Ow. Why is no one joining for this podcast? Are you new people? No one. No one goes for supply cache, of course. They're arrogant old players. Oh, we're MR23, MR28. We don't need supply caches. I hate these types of players so much. I have every arcane maxed out anyway. Why do we need arcanes? We have them maxed out.
Ain't nobody gonna mess with the hex now. Not Scaldra, not Tech Rock. You feel me? Now extract yourself.
And they're slow. You're in a default Trinity Prime. I'll have to do stronger troops. I hate stronger troops so much.
Great.
There's one thing I hate more than anything else is stronger troops. Legitimately, I hate them so much.
Be safe.
Let's see. Do I have
Get fixed.
duplicates? I have one duplicate. Two duplicates. Two pretty good duplicates, I must admit, but they're duplicates. And sell them for standing.
Good find.
Get it done a little bit quicker.
Buena suerte. Bring back something nice. Something I can do for you?
How much?
See?
I have to get 7,500. I have to get 10,000 today.
Okay. Primeri.
Well,
Hasta
10,500 done today. That's possible. Annoying, but possible. Who is this person?
And a rock and roll mutant walk into a bar. And the mutant says, "Hey, my friends all got executed. Can we go back and save them?" But the time traveler says, "Well, if we save them, then you never go on the run and hide out at the mall, so we never meet, and they can never get saved." So it goes, right? Anyways, I'm Flair. Good to meet you, Drifter.
Okay then.
Here's what we got.
This is where I get temple. Right. Okay. That's where I get temple at. Okay.
Tactical solutions are available to
When
Nightingale
Nightingale
gives you the green light.
She means
Report
guns.
back.
Ooh, no disrespect, but you're gonna need security clearance. Apologies.
Hey, Drifter. Stranger danger. Sorry, you're cool, I get that. I just can't talk to you yet. Gotta wait. until
I
the
get
tonic
these
drink
at
stick
the
out of his
5th
ass.
rank. Bleh. I get these at this rank. Which I can't do because I time gated. Oh, okay, I cannot go that way.
You sorted me, Fred.
Oh, hey, I glitched it. I almost glitched it. It's like you can sometimes summon your operator form and other times you can't. Well, drifter form in this case, but it's like you can sometimes summon them, but you also can't.
Grab a pack.
Very weird. I don't think it makes any sense.
You ever wonder why you're in a situation like this?
I'm gonna go make some breakfast.
see that's stalking me is probably one of my worst possible nightmares. The woods are scary enough as it is, but to have something that you can't fully understand chasing you on top of that is beyond terrifying to me. Whereas most paranormal movies take place within a familiar looking environment, Blair Witch puts the main characters out in the middle of nowhere, in the witch's very own backyard. That is, if there's even a witch at all. Maybe it's just a bunch of psychotic locals tormenting them, which, let's be real, wouldn't be all that much better. Regardless if it's a witch, a human, or something else entirely, they are stuck in those woods. It's not like they can just walk out of a door and leave. They are completely stranded. There's no getting out of this nightmare. One of my biggest fears is the idea of being followed, so pairing that with being stuck in the woods is a deadly combination for me. But for someone who doesn't have those same fears, I can see how the Blair Witch Project could be boring to you. If you don't like this movie, that's completely fine. I do ask one thing of you though. Finish this video. Let me make a case for why you should give this movie another chance. You see, the Blair Witch Project was never meant to be watched on its own. It was meant to be a piece of a puzzle, so of course you're not going to see the full picture if you're only looking at one piece. You're only seeing a small glimpse into a much larger world. All I'm asking in this video is that you let me show you the other pieces of the puzzle. The story of the Blair Witch doesn't start with 3 kids walking to the woods. It starts earlier. Much earlier. In the year 1769, an Irish immigrant by the name of Ellie Kedward arrived in Baltimore. She would end up settling in Blair Township, where she would live for a number of years. Before coming to America, Ellie's life was one riddled with tragedy and misfortune. Ellie's mother bled out during childbirth, leaving the girl alone with her father. Ellie would live with her dad for a number of years. Or that was until Ellie and her father were captured by a group of rebels. The rebels tortured Ellie's father to death and forced her to watch it all. After they were done with her father, the rebels would go on to assault Ellie and throw her out into the cold when they were done with her. A grifter would end up finding Ellie walking around the streets by herself. She took the girl in and left her in an orphanage. Unfortunately, things would only get worse from here. Ellie would get abused and bullied by both the adults working at the orphanage and by the other orphans on a daily basis. It was around this time that Ellie would start to write in a journal. This was Ellie's only means of escape from the real world. She would have these fantasies where she's a powerful general among an army made out of these stick figures. She would describe these stick figures as her friends and her protectors against the beasts of the world. After spending a few years in the orphanage, Ellie would go live with an old hermit woman who taught her about the occult and witchcraft. Later on, Ellie ended up in an asylum where she would prostitute herself to make money. As a result, Ellie became pregnant on 7 separate occasions. Each of these pregnancies would result in a miscarriage. Ellie would continue to prostitute herself until she could afford to leave Ireland in hopes of starting over in a new country. Unfortunately, Ellie quickly ran into issues in her new home of Blair. Being a Catholic in a predominantly Protestant town, Ellie faced constant ridicule and persecution from the locals. Because of this, Ellie would spend most of her days in her house. Ellie would continue to practice witchcraft in secret. She knew that if anyone found out she was a witch, she can face serious consequences. Ellie knew she needed to lie low and not draw attention to herself. That was until, in February of 1785, when several town children accused Ellie of luring them into her home and drawing blood from them. It's unclear why Ellie would take blood from the kids. Some say she was making potions, or some say she used the blood for satanic rituals. But it's possible that the kids also could have made the whole thing up. No matter what the reason for the bloodletting was, Ellie is arrested for suspicion of practicing witchcraft. She is then put on trial. Dan and Ed took a lot of historical inspiration from the 1692 Salem witch trials, in which 25 women, men, and children were persecuted and many times killed for being wrongly accused of witchcraft. These people were completely innocent, and many of them lost their lives because of a lie started by one person. Also, here's a little fun fact for you. Haxan Films got their name from the 1922 silent documentary Haxan, which in English translates to Witchcraft Through the Ages. After her arrest, Ellie's put on trial and is banished from Blair Township, where she is to die out in the woods from exposure. The details around Ellie's death are a little cloudy. Some say she was blindfolded and dragged out in the middle of the woods. Some say she was tied to a tree and left to get eaten by the wolves. But the most popular theory is that the constables tied Ellie to a wagon and dragged her out in the middle of the woods to die from exposure. It was a particularly harsh winter that year, and Ellie likely wouldn't have lived past the night out in the woods. Like many aspects of the Ellie Kedward story, the details about what happened after Ellie was left in the woods are murky. Some say the constables went back into the woods the next day to bury her, but Ellie was completely missing. Some say she was torn apart by wolves, and others say that the same children who accused Ellie of drawing their blood went out and found that Ellie was still alive. They would torment her and slash her skin with sticks and sharp stones until she bled to death. A year after Ellie's death, in November of 1786, all of her accusers, along with half the town's children, go missing overnight. Search parties are sent out by the dozens, but the children are never seen again. The townspeople of Blair believe it was the spirit of Ellie Kedward getting her revenge on the children. The people believe that the town of Blair is cursed by Ellie, so they abandon the town and vow to never utter the name Ellie Kedward again. In November of 1809, the Blair Witch Cult was published. This mysterious book tells the origins of Ellie Kedward, and retells the legend of the missing Blair children. This book was used by members of the Blair Witch Cult, a group of Satanists involved in witchcraft. They believe that they are followers of Ellie Kedward and receive special instructions from her in the Black Hills Forest. Not much detail is known about the cult themselves, but it's believed they were still around up until about the 1960s. After that, no one really knows what happened to them. The only known existing copy of the Blair Witch Cult is on display in the Maryland Historical Society in Baltimore. The book is badly damaged and most of its contents are completely ineligible. But from what could be read, it seems that the Blair Witch Cult believed that Ellie could control the animals and the trees within the Black Hills Forest. They believed that Ellie could control the elements and even time itself within the woods. Of course, all of this is speculation, and believed to be the crazed writings of a bunch of hippies out in the woods. In 1824, the town of Burkittsville was founded on the former Blair site. A year later, the citizens of Burkittsville were having a picnic by Tappy East Creek when 11 eyewitnesses testified seeing a pale woman's hand reach out from the water and pull 10-year-old Eileen Trickle into the creek. Despite the creek only being about 12 inches deep, Eileen's body was never found. For reference, Eileen could have crawled on her stomach across the creek without any problems. To make things even weirder, for 13 days straight after Eileen's disappearance, the creek was clogged up with these strange, oily stick figures. No one knew where these strange figures were coming from. A few cattle even died after drinking the water from the creek. The next event of interest happened in March of 1886, when an 8-year-old girl named Robin Weaver went missing into the Black Hills Forest. Multiple search parties go out into the woods to look for Robin. Eventually, she returns home by herself. All but one of the search parties comes back. So the search parties go back into the woods to look for the first group. They eventually find them at Coffin Rock. The search party was tied together by their hands and feet, with their bowels carved outside of their stomachs. There seemed to be some sort of pagan symbols carved into their skin. The search groups go back into town to get help. Once they go back to Coffin Rock, the bodies are completely gone. The smell of death still lingers. When the authorities questioned Robin about what happened, she said she was walking through the woods when she came across an old woman whose feet didn't touch the ground. The woman seemed nice, so Robin followed the woman into an old abandoned house. The old woman led Robin to the basement and said she'd return in a while. After a few hours, it was getting dark and Robin was starting to get scared, so she left and went back home. The next tragedy takes place in 1941, when an old hermit by the name of Rustin Parr walks into a local market and tells the people that he's finally finished. Not knowing what this meant, the police walked into the woods all the way to Rustin's secluded home, where they would find the remains of 7 young children who were slaughtered in the cellar of Rustin's home. Parr is immediately arrested and brought into questioning. He would tell the police that he was following the orders of a ghost woman who lives out in the woods. Over the course of 5 months, Parr would abduct children from the town and bring them back to his home to kill them. He abducted 8 children in total. Out of the 8 kids, there was only one survivor, a boy named Kyle Brody. Kyle was able to testify to what Parr did. Parr would make Kyle stand in the corner with his back turned to him facing the cellar wall, and he would force Kyle to stand there while he murdered all of the 7 children. It's kind of a funny coincidence when you think about it. 7 was also the number of pregnancies that Ellie Kedward miscarried. Maybe it's not such a coincidence after all. Strangely, Parr would never say why he decided to keep Kyle alive this whole time. It's unclear whether this was under direction of the witch. Initially, Parr pleaded guilty to his crimes and was sentenced to death. This may seem like a solid and open-shut case. However, before Parr was executed, he told a priest that he didn't actually kill anyone. This priest begged Parr to let him go to the judge, but Parr refused. He was hung to death on November 22nd, 1941. Many believe that Parr lied to the priest when he said he didn't kill anyone, but that begs the question, why would Rustin lie to the priest before his execution? He clearly wasn't trying to get out of dying, because he refused to let the priest go to the judge. Is it possible that Parr is innocent? Kyle Brody would go on to have a very troubled life after this. As an adult, Kyle was constantly in and out of prison and mental hospitals. He would draw these strange symbols on the walls of his cells. At first, the guards thought it was gibberish, but experts on the occult examined Kyle's writings and discovered that Kyle was writing in an ancient language. This mostly lost language is used primarily in witchcraft and secret societies. This is important because this same language was found written on the walls within Rustin Parr's home. The authorities assumed that Rustin had written on the walls himself, but there's only one problem with that. Rustin was illiterate. He couldn't read or write even in English, let alone an ancient language. Is it possible Kyle Brody may have had more to do with the other kid's death than he was letting on? Was Rustin Parr covering for Kyle? Were they working together? This opened the door to a lot of new questions. Unfortunately, Kyle Brody would end up taking his life in 1971 after slitting his wrist with a sharpened spoon. This brings us to the events of October 20th, 1994, when 3 Montgomery College film students, Heather Donahue, Joshua Leonard, and Michael Williams, arrived in Burkittsville to make a documentary on the legend of the Blair Witch. The group interviewed some locals about the Blair Witch, where they would learn about Ellie Kedward and Rustin Parr. The next day, the trio would enter to the Black Hills Forest, where they were never seen or heard from again. An APB is put out on October 25th, and search parties are sent into the Black Hills Forest to look for the missing kids. Shortly after, Joshua Leonard's car is found parked on the side of Black Rock Road. The next day, on the 26th, the Maryland State Police join in on the search. The search would last over 10 days, where over 100 people would walk into the forest to try and find these kids. They used hunting dogs, helicopters, and even a satellite from the Department of Defense to try and find them. But nothing ever came out. It's as if the filmmakers walked into the woods and simply fell off the face of the earth. Over 30,000 hours of work went into this search, and nothing. It was officially called off on November 5th. On June 19th of 1995, the case was declared inactive, despite protests from Heather Donahue's mother, Angie. For a while, it seemed like that was where the story was going to end. Or, that wasn't until, on October 16th, when students from the University of Maryland's Anthropology Department discover a duffel bag containing film cassettes underneath the foundation of Rustin Parr's house. This bag with modern video cameras and various other equipment was found underneath the foundation of an over 100-year-old house, and none of the surrounding walls were disturbed. There wasn't a single brick out of place. That means somehow, some way, this bag was buried underneath this century-old house without any part of the ground or the house itself being disturbed or showing signs of being changed. How could that be possible? Out of all the seemingly strange details that surround this case, this is the one that's the hardest to explain. After the tapes were discovered, they were handed over to Burkittsville Sheriff Ron Cravens. After the Sheriff Department confirms that the tapes actually belong to the missing kids, they show selected pieces of the tapes to the students' families. The footage they were shown proved to be inconclusive. The family demanded to see more footage. After reviewing more of the tapes, the Sheriff Department declares that the tapes were faked by the missing kids and declare the case to be inactive again. Heather Donahue's mother Angie is outraged and demands the family see the rest of the tapes. This led to a year-long legal battle, and by the end, Angie won. The full footage was finally released to the students' families on October 16th, 1997. With over 20 hours of footage to go through, Angie knew that she was going to need some help to piece everything together. This is when Angie contacts Haxon Films to examine the footage and piece together the events of October 20th to the 28th of 1994. After months of going through the footage and trying to make sense of it all, the Haxon crew was able to put together what they felt best explained what happened to the kids, and they called it the Blair Witch Project. This is how urban legends start. Tragedy will strike, and instead of accepting that bad things happen for no good reason sometimes, we like to think that there's some monster behind them all. Did Eileen Treckle really get pulled into the creek, or did she drown due to negligence? Robin Weaver could have easily made up the story of the floating woman to stay out of trouble. Was Rustin Parr really following the orders of a ghostly woman, or was he just trying to make himself look crazy in hopes that he can escape the death sentence? Is there even a witch at all, or is the Blair Witch merely just a scapegoat? Admittedly, there's a lot of strange occurrences within the Blair Witch legend that would make it hard to explain without some kind of supernatural phenomena. To me, what makes the Blair Witch Project so fascinating is how it was made. Dan and Ed knew in order to trick people into thinking what they were watching was real, they were going to need to make it feel real. That meant they weren't going to be able to produce this like a normal movie. The most important thing, the backbone of the project if you will, was the actors. Dan and Ed knew that they're going to need people who can actually improvise under any scenario. They didn't need people who can read off a script because, well, there was no script. They needed the dialogue to feel organic. They needed people who could stay in character under any circumstance, and more importantly, they need people who can think in character too. During the auditions, instead of feeding the actors lines of dialogue, the directors gave them a scenario. The actors were told that they had been in jail for the last 9 years, and they had to make a case to their parole board as to why they should be let out. That was it. That was the only thing they got to work with. Originally, Dan and Ed only wanted men for each part, but they were so impressed with Heather's audition that they ended up hiring her on the spot. Most of the scenes in the woods were shot in Seneca Creek State Park in Montgomery County, Maryland. Filming lasted 8 days, and the last day of shooting was actually on October 31st, 1997. Ironic, isn't it? The actors shot most of the film themselves, using a CP16 camera and a Hi8 tape recorder, both of which were bought from secondhand stores a few days before filming began. Producer Greg Hale, who had experience traversing through the woods from his military training, set up checkpoints filled with food, water, and direction notes throughout the woods that the actors had to find with their GPS. Once they would reach these checkpoints, which were milk crates marked with bicycle flags, they'd be given directions on where to go next and what their characters were going to do. Each actor was given their own direction notes, and they weren't allowed to show the other actors. Dan and Ed knew that in order to get the most genuine reactions out of their performers, they needed it to feel as if they were really out in the woods themselves. The only time the crew would come in and give directions verbally is if the trio had missed a checkpoint or started walking in the wrong direction, which actually happened quite a lot. They wanted to make the actors physically uncomfortable being out in the woods, so their fear felt more genuine. This included feeding the actors a little less food day by day to simulate the feeling of starvation. Tax and crew made it very clear to the trio that while they were going to be very concerned about their safety, they were not going to be so concerned about their comfort. This was done to make the acting feel more natural. It's easier to pretend you're hungry when you're, in fact, actually hungry. Over the course of 8 days, Heather, Mike, and Josh were out in the woods, and they had shot over 18 hours of footage. Most of it unusable, but Dan and Ed still had a lot of tape to go through. Now, something that's important to understand is that Dan and Ed did not set out to make a found footage movie. They wanted to make a documentary. The footage shot in the woods was just phase 1. Phase 2 is going to be much more straightforward. Interviews, newsreels, things like that. Originally, the students' tapes were only going to make up about 15 to 20 minutes of the original movie. But during the editing process, which took over 8 months by the way, Dan and Ed slowly realized that they had a full movie just with the students' footage. They didn't need anything else. They decided to remove all the documentary parts and use them for Curse of the Blair Witch instead. The version of the Blair Witch Project we see today wasn't the original cut. Arson felt that the original ending, while scary, was too confusing for the audience. They had requested that they reshoot the ending and change it up. Dan and Ed actually brought Mike back to the Rustin Parr house and filmed 4 alternative endings. Ending 1 is similar to the first one, except Heather gets a lot closer to Mike and we see some of the witch's dolls hanging from the ceiling. The second ending has Mike facing forward, more in a kind of trance. This one is definitely more startling than the first. Mike is staring Heather down in a very aggressive way, almost indicating that he's under the witch's influence. The third ending has Mike hanging from the ceiling with a noose around his neck, and the fourth, probably the most infamous alternate ending, sees Mike crucified on a giant stick doll hanging from the ceiling. Artisan ran more test screenings to see which ending scored the best, and ironically, it was the OG ending, the one Artisan hated. Luckily, Artisan listened to put the original ending back in. While it's true that the original ending is definitely more confusing, I think that's kind of what made it scary in the first place. The more we understand something, the less scared we become. What makes us fearful is something that's out of the ordinary, unexplained. The first ending kept the audience off balance. It challenged our real-world conventions. That's what really makes it scary. After the theatrical release, the Blair Witch Project exploded in popularity. It is to this day one of the most successful indie films of all time. But like I said earlier, audiences were still split on it. I think the found footage format was just a little too foreign for people to understand. There was actually even some people who were legitimately disappointed to discover that it was all a hoax. I think they felt ripped off in a way. There were also some reports that the jumpy camera work made people feel sick and even caused a few people to vomit during the movie, although this was pretty rare. Like I said earlier, the critics loved this movie and pretty much gave it universal praise. In fact, Roger Ebert, who notoriously hated scary movies, gave it 4 stars, and in his review called it an extraordinarily effective horror film. Whether you like this movie or not, there is no denying the impact the Blair Witch Project had within the horror landscape, especially within the found footage genre. Blair Witch is not the first found footage horror movie. That accolade would go to 1980's infamous Cannibal Holocaust, and there were a couple more before Blair Witch as well. But it was the first movie to bring the genre to the mainstream. And then in 2007, the monumental success of Paranormal Activity revitalized the genre, and it helped studios realize the potential this formula had. Since then, found footage has become one of the most well-known and profitable subgenres in all of horror. Admittedly, I don't like most found footage horror movies. There are exceptions, of course, but as a whole, I can't really say it's one of my favorite genres. I've noticed that in a lot of found footage movies, they'll usually treat the camera like it's an afterthought. And what I mean by that is, they'll explain why there's a camera in the beginning. Usually it's for some kind of documentation. And then outside of that very brief explanation, they never really address it again. You feel like everyone in that movie is just oblivious to the fact that there's a camera pointed directly at them. It's like the person holding the camera has become invisible. I also have a hard time imagining that the camera person would just continually put themselves in harm's way to get everything on camera, rather than just throwing the camera down and trying to get away from the danger. Even if it's for documentation. I mean, even the most professional documentarians still have their limits. Most found footage movies are going to kind of ignore this, but you see, Blair Witch Project doesn't do that. It actually addresses the issue head on. And I think the way it does it makes a lot of sense. We know that Heather is a very insecure person, but she pretends to be a lot stronger than she really is. She's also a control freak who needs to constantly be in charge of everything around her. The problem with people like this is that when they are thrown into a situation they have no control over, their mask starts to break and they crumble. Heather is using her camera as a sort of shield. When she's looking through the lens, she isn't really seeing the real world. She's seeing a distorted mirror world, where she can still pretend that everything's okay. It's the very last thing that Heather has control over. Without her camera, she has nothing. So why do I love this movie but not like some of the others? Well, I think I know a way I can answer that. We're going to be taking a look at the second Blair Witch movie. Oh, no, not this one. Not this one. Oh, yeah, there we go. That's, well, that's